Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
Well, here we are. We see each other again, and we're both in almost new places.
Yeah,
you're in an apartment.
I may have the same shirt on, but it's different.
But you don't have your beanie.
No, I don't have. Hey, well, that's what 72 or however many degrees it is out there right now. That's what that'll do for
and
me.
I've gone blonde, so my hair color changes every 3 months ish.
Yeah.
So I'm the platinum today. Welcome, Lisa Platinum. I walk in and Don goes, "Whoa, you look like you're 20," and I went, "Really? That's what I'm going to go get my hair done every day."
Yeah. I was going to say something when we first got on here. I'm going, Hey, look at you. Yeah, Don feels like he's married to a strange woman now.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, if it works,
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Well, we're in new places and we're back. I was just talking to Randy. I'm sure like so many of you, and we've had our episodes, but we were off the air for a little while, and it's been a little tough getting back in the rhythm and just finding space, right? Because we were both behind and all the meetings that we had postponed for being gone or out of town or moving got shifted. So it's been kind of hard to find spots, but we will get back in the routine and get these shows every week for you guys. And as we were talking about it, I told Randy, I said, "Hey, do you have time tonight?" Yep. Let's do it. And I said, "Well, I've got something we can talk about that we haven't talked about yet." Right. And it's always things that are happening in our lives and at work, generally that we just often talk about and play so well in the leadership. And one of those challenges we had today is talking about where you have challenges at work, something, or in life, generally something happens. It's not what we planned and it impacts somebody. Whether it's a small impact or a big impact, none of us like to have impacted somebody else negatively by what we did.
Right.
Especially if it was what I call an innocent mistake or a mistake. Now, there's two kinds of mistakes in my mind, and I handle them completely different. There's a mistake of the heart and there's a mistake of the mind. Mistake of the heart was unintentional. You just didn't know. You may have tried to make a good decision and it didn't go well. A mistake of the mind is with intent, and you specifically made that mistake, right?
It's more of a sabotage.
Called it or sabotaged or something else.
Right.
And so with
it's ill-intended.
Yes, correct. And those are completely different. But let's talk for now on a mistake of the heart. Okay. So you have something go wrong. You've made a decision, an impact has come up. I'm in HR. This can happen at the department level, at the city level, at a media level. So something's happened in the city we find out about through the media, or we gain wind it's going to the media, or it's a departmental issue. Somebody's done something and somebody else is impacted and coming to us, or the department head is coming to us trying to solve for it. What do? What is your reaction? Randy, I'm sure you faced it from a different level. You're CEO. So you're at the top. I'm your department head. I'm going to approach it probably a little different. You're going to expect me to come to you with the problem as soon as we know about it, and then come to you with a solution of how we think we might be able to fix it to bounce it off of you. That's what we all hope occurs. But does it?
I see this in city government. I mean, I would tell you, in fact, I just got back from kind of facilitating, at least my portion, which was most of the day-to-day with city staff. And, not a big city.
Right.
And this kind of thing daily. Yeah. These are not one-offs.
No, these are the fires that we do in business every day.
Every city that I know currently and that I work with currently describe the work in similar terms. Conveyor belt, and it's on high speed, and it's rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And there's not one thing we can do to slow it down. And so the sheer volume of work today is, I think, unprecedented. I know what is unprecedented is the polarization and the vitriol and the negativity. And I would go so far as to use a word that I use today, the H word, hatred. You know, I mean, there is, it's just real. It's an elephant in the room. And you add on top of that, then some innocent, as you say, some heart mistake that is made. And it's really easy for us, I think, as peers to jump on that person that, like, I got all this other stuff going and now you do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we get really self-focused. And I told you before we hit record, you know, and immediately it's, you know, we're hiding anything and everything that we've done because we've all done it. Come on, let's,
Right.
you know, we've all done it. We're all human. We've all made mistakes. We've all done stupid, seemingly in retrospect, stupid stuff. But at the time, I mean, I had a director comment about something that went out on social media. It's one of those kind of an automated thing. It's never been a problem till it is a problem, right? And all of a sudden something goes out, shouldn't have gone out. Eyes should have been laid on it. Eyes weren't laid on it because eyes had never been needed to lay on it before. Mm-hmm. Until you do need to. And so now it's like, okay, now we smeared toothpaste out all over the counter and now we got to get it back in the tube somehow, you know, and now we have to recover. I've never found it helpful. So we're going to dogpile. And you and I both know, yeah, that blame game gets really, really easy in those circumstances. We don't care why it happened. We don't care if it was a heart thing or a mind thing, as you distinguish them. You know, it's a problem because now it impacts me. Mm-hmm. You know, meanwhile, it's interesting to me that I can cause you all kinds of problems, and I can minimize those. You know, you watch these cop shows. It's interesting. You watch these interrogation shows. If you watch IDTV, I don't know. We get fascinated with some of these IDTV shows. And, you know, the person comes in there and they're kind of sort of confessing, but they're really minimizing their role in this crime, right? I mean, it's like, you know, but I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And we can get real easy to do it. Lisa and I we talked ad nauseum about how judgment is easy and compassion is hard. Because it's a fact. And part of that leadership recipe that we continue to regurgitate here is, I think, in play here. And that is, you know, okay, we don't have compassion because we don't have any of the other ingredients either. Mm-hmm. You know, we certainly don't have understanding. Yeah. Because we really don't know. We think we know. We've connected all these dots. Maybe they connect. Maybe they don't connect. Because we've had no curiosity. Because we know what happened. I know what happened because I'm the victim. I'm the victim of this, and I'm suffering because your work was so pathetic that now it's a problem for me. So you can run that way if you want to, but that's a short game to play, in my opinion.
I think that we talk about that, the reactions. How first do you react when it happens to you? And if you're a leader, how do you react if your team has made the mistake? Because those are two different reactions that can impact somebody. If you talk about, in our case, it's a team member had done something. Well, the good news is I know my team. This is the good part of it. They were beating themselves up before they ever came in my office to tell me about it.
Right.
Right. They're devastated that it occurred. They just didn't know. Hindsight's 20/20, and they could say, "Man, I should have known." And I said, "Well, really, this, in my opinion," and I told them, this was the perfect storm. I was out of town. We have done these tests before. Mm-hmm. In my head, we had gone through the process and they knew it, mm-hmm. but we had turnover. The person that had been doing it, that was in charge of it, was also gone now from the city. And so in my head, we had been through it as a team. Honestly, it did not go through my head that, hey, I need to cover all the protocols again. Because I'm thinking, okay, we've been through this. We know how to do this. There's right. Nothing new. This is a common thing that happens. But they didn't know. And so this particular issue did become problematic for the person on the receiving end of it and for those impacted around that individual. So we did impact several people potentially through this mistake. And the challenge becomes, I could immediately jump as a leader and say, oh, how could you not know? How could you not know to have done that? This is a huge problem. You're going to have to face
your
the-
team, to your
Yeah, I
team
could have done
member.
this to my team member.
Yeah.
Right? I could have immediately jumped to the fault finding, blame game. But what does that solve for me?
Nothing.
Nothing, except making them feel worse, feeling more accountable than they already do because they're good, honest people.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't solve for anything in their growth as a leader, because now I am being I'm the role model at this moment in time.
Right.
They are looking at me of how it's hard enough to come to me and admit this happened, but it's even harder, to fix it, because this isn't something that I can make a decision on. In this case, it has to go before a board to make a decision.
And if you do that, though, you're unwittingly undermining your own leadership.
That's correct.
It doesn't feel that way in the moment. In the moment, it feels like you're able to shift the blame, but that's not really what's happening. What's happening is you're undermining your leadership, not just to them, but really to the entire organization, because you're refusing to just own it.
Not only that, but I'm teaching the very things that I need to show as actionable, right? I'm teaching be curious. So thankfully, this is something we talk about. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying my natural inclination was to start asking questions. Well, do they have X right now? Yes, they're over in the room and they have X. I said, well, let's go get that, correct that. And then I will send out an email to the team of the next steps. And I did immediately. Well, we've got 2 days that have gone by. I can't correct those, right? It's over and done with. I notify, in my case, once I got the facts from them as best I knew at that moment, I've already got other people calling me that are impacted. I got their directors calling me that are impacted. So it is quickly escalating. And it's interesting, again, each person has to choose whether they're seeking blame or seeking a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And different people, I promise you, react differently. They either go completely negative, or they are looking at, how can we fix this? How do we need to approach this? And there are different ways to do that. So in this whole theory, what I would always talk about to my team, and what our listeners can learn from this, is it's going to happen. And it's going to be either little mistakes in your career. There's going to inevitably, if you haven't made one, there is going to be a big one. And that's, I believe, when you see true leadership, true good leadership, or true really bad management. It's not even leadership.
Right.
But if you are the leader, the first thing I did was to start asking questions, to be curious, because I needed to understand what the issue was and what knowledge they did have. Because now I'm immediately seeking the gap. I call it the gap. Where's the gap?
You mean you didn't pitch a wall-eyed fit and ask, well, who did this?
I didn't even, my face. I was like, okay, yeah, we need to go do that. Can you go do that right now? Let's go do that right now. And then let me know, and let's sit down.
Right.
But you try not to, because they're like, oh my gosh. And so, but then it's just trying to educate, trying to, how are we going to solve for it? In my case, I kind of outline, okay, who are the players? So I called the other, in this case, there was a chief, and I called the other chief and said, hey, this is what's going on. And he had already been called by the other chief. So they were all on the same page. And I said, I'm going to talk to city manager, so he's aware, because he was over police and fire, and he's over them now. Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm saying? He had a vested interest because he was in that department before.
Yeah, just everybody that's touched, you get them clued in. Yeah.
Yes. And so hard to do. We'll talk about good leadership at the moment. He said, we did this in police once. Not this exact issue, but he said, we can, Lisa, we can fix it. We can fix this if we need to. Promotions and stuff may happen naturally. If they have somebody retire, it may fix itself. But again, he could have gone, oh my God, how did you let this happen?
Right. You moron.
You moron. You've been doing this for, since 2006.
Right.
But I just explained the same thing. I said, this is on me. I thought there was knowledge there. I should not have expected that knowledge to be there. I should have confirmed it at least before I left. This is an issue of pace. I just did, there's so much going on. And I was like, okay, yeah, we've done these before. And it was just another tick on the list,
Yeah.
right? We were fine.
Right.
That was my bad. And I told the staff, this is on, I will own this. You may have to answer for questions that I wasn't there on what happened if the commission or somebody wants to know that.
Yep.
But I'm saying all that for the listeners is if you understand the situation, the next thing is a reaction. Because now I'm in the moment and reacting. But that's me with my team. I'm having compassion for the mistake. Because also I want them to learn from it and see how you can move through these. Because really, I think a high performing team, it's like a really great family. It's not the issue that you have in the moment. It's how you move through the issue. Right?
Is it that way early in your career? I'm curious. Was it that way early in your career? Is this kind of a default reaction that you would have?
No, because, well, I say if you're talking my reaction, I've always been pretty level, even as a kid, I'm level, I'm pretty level.
Yeah.
But
see that.
The lesson learned was when I had a bad leader to start with. I had a bad leader that reacted poorly to everything and made me feel terrible. It didn't matter if I had done good, it would be turned to a negative. And so I learned through that
how not to do
man, when I'm leading, I don't want to make somebody feel like this feels like crap.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want somebody to feel that way. When I'm leading them, I want them to have felt I've learned from it. How do we move through it so that they can then influence another person, and then and you go from influencing 2 to those 2 influencing 4 to those 4 influencing 8, because they can choose the same method of reaction if they have seen it happen over and over. But they can also tweak it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting though?
The power of influence.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how a boss, can relish making an employee feel really bad? And I always wonder, and what do you hope to accomplish with that?
I don't know. To me, it's the difference between power and influence.
Yeah, how's that going to help anybody though? I don't understand.
So I just think it's power and influence, but. All that to be said, through this issue we were having, it really brought to light, there's just different reactions in people. And what I told my staff, because I've had several of them come to me going, well, how are you going to approach it? And what if we can't determine exactly what happened, because there was only certain people, and we showed the data of the facts, and we show what the person's telling us that's an honorable, high integrity person. But ultimately, it's this versus this, and both are facts on each side of the ledger. And I'm not in a position to determine where the facts fall. That has to go, before somebody else.
Yeah, and that's a topic. Full understanding it's not always possible.
Yep. So it's not always as easy as it seems. And I talk about that a lot to the team. And I told them, as we're moving through this, just don't condemn. No matter what you get thrown at you, you need to stay professional and keep referring to the facts, because it is not our decision to make. And we don't want to imply, even if the targets are coming at us, you stand steadfast and hear the facts. I agree, a mistake was made. We are sorry for the impact of this mistake, because those are all true. I cannot change any of it at this point. It has happened, and there's no good fix. What we fix on one side will negatively impact another. We'll fix it for one, it's going to make another person upset, right? And that's often the way it is, especially in employee relation issues that we deal with every day. Employee relation issues. So as you move forward and move through this, remember your reaction. Remember,
and what advice do you have on that before you move on beyond that?
I just believe you have to stay calm in the moment and listen. Just reacting and blowing up, you need to have a state of mind, or somebody around you with that state of mind that's really good at it, to go, what is the issue? What do we know? What do we need to know? Who's impacted and who could be impacted? Because that's going to tell you what you need to do.
That's right.
And as I looked at it, I'm like, okay, what happened? That's my team telling me. I have the other side telling me what they believe happened. They're clarifying questions, which is
Right.
good. Then I'm going back and getting more information saying, okay, what about, did this also happen? Because we need all the facts to present it. And then I needed to know who could be impacted, the other chief
Right.
and our city manager, if it escalates. And what are the potential solutions so that we're in this together, right?
So that I understand. So you've got a relatively, for lack of a better word, a relatively novice employee.
Yeah, on my staff that
Yeah, on
had
your
the
staff.
issue.
But
Well,
is
I mean, within a couple years.
yeah. But this isn't, this is a new area, that they're handling. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
brand new area.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that you began this conversation with how badly this person felt, which leads me to believe, correct me if I'm wrong, so this person's owning it lock, stock, and barrel right up front.
Right from the front, and called the chief and said, "This was my mistake to have made. This was my mistake."
I mean, I wonder where she learned that. He
Well-
says snarkily.
Yeah,
Well, but it proves the point. It absolutely
right.
proves the point, because we've all seen this. Top down, we can talk about grassroots all we want, and it's great.
Right.
It's wonderful. However, top down is tremendously powerful. It's one reason that we really kind of fixate here, in part, on leadership. When leadership has power, when the leader's the boss, that's as good as it gets. Because, man, you can really serve, because you got enough power and authority to help people and to do more.
Well,
It's
and you know
interesting,
what?
too, how staff mirrors the leader at the top.
I go back to, we are all human. If our audience is listening and I said, have you made a mistake in your career that negatively impacted somebody? I can't imagine, unless they're like in their career, like for 2 days, that they say, you know what? No, I have
Oh, yeah.
all my decisions have been perfectly made and the outcomes were amazing.
Right.
Right. It just, that just doesn't happen. We're trying to make decisions as the best we can. Now, again, if it's a mistake of the mind and you're doing it intentionally and willfully, and you're just trying to be mean spirited to somebody, that's a totally different conversation. But a mistake of the heart where you tried to make the right decision and it didn't go well, or you just made a mistake because you didn't know, which is what happened here. They just didn't know. Then there's all these questions that come up. Should they have asked? Should they have done this? Should they have checked with somebody? Well, it is a perfect storm. I'm on vacation for a week.
Right.
Right? My boss, thankfully, had told staff, do not bother her. She deserves this vacation. So what do? They don't bother me.
They leave you alone.
And what had I told them to do? Make the best decision you can in the moment.
That's right.
And my boss also doesn't know about this. And they made the best decision they knew. They thought they were doing the right thing. They just didn't know. And unfortunately, that lack of knowledge impacted somebody.
Yeah.
But guess what? I said, do you know now? And they said, absolutely. I will never make this mistake again. And it was a great learning lesson. Painful. That doesn't mean it was a feel-good lesson. It's a painful lesson that we're not through with.
The biggest lessons are.
That's right. And so
I've told that mythical story about the jeweler, the national jeweler. Don't know if it's myth or true, but it was always told, and I won't name the name of the jeweler, but a national jewelry chain. And I was in luxury retailing. And so, man, it hit the retailing, myth train really quickly. That this buyer had made this purchase, and it was just a horrific buy. And ended up costing the company $1 million. And the CEO is asked, well, you going to fire the guy? And the response was, you kidding me? We've invested $1 million in this guy. Right?
True.
Probably myth, but it's a great story. And you could, if you're on your end, if it's your team that caused the problem, you could do that. You could go head hunting. I want somebody's head on a charger over this. I want somebody to pay a price for this. And what good does that do? Do we think that will this mistake ever happen again?
Could it? Yes.
Well, anything could.
Right.
But the
It
likelihood,
shouldn't. They have already gotten the protocol. They've got it on my
Exactly.
desk. They have gotten
Exactly.
it written up, going, we have clarified it, and we're putting it in front of everybody so they know. They're having me review it, because it was, again, it was just a lack of knowledge.
Well, it may be a horrible
didn't know.
example, but it's one that popped in my mind. The best time, the safest time to fly is probably after there's been a crash.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole nation's on high alert about it, right? So we're really fixated, and we're focused on fixing this thing procedurally to get some systems in place to prevent this from could it still go south? Of course. Come on, human error can always exist, but your odds of repeating that mistake now are so stinking small compared to what it was before.
Right.
Huge learning.
Yeah. And the fact is, if it's going to happen again, it's just like you just referenced on the crash, and that's a tough thing to do. But how many agencies following a plane crash ticked up their maintenance schedules, ticked up the processes, not just for that airline, but for all of them, made it better for everybody. Yeah. This is exactly the same. This is making it better for everybody.
That's right.
It's a lesson we can teach. We're talking about it today. I mean, we all have them. It is how you react to it, and it's how you respond to it, and how you demonstrate compassion that makes the difference. You can beat somebody up and let them feel horrible, and that's a whole different impact. Or you can have them learn from it, correct it, make an impact to the team, and teach on it, because now they've got a moment that's a teachable moment versus a moment that's embarrassing. Right? I mean, I could easily have not talked about this today, and they think I'm as wonderful as I am, Randy, without faults of any kind, right? But here we are, and it does happen. It happens to all of us. It's not intentional, but we do have to respond to it. We have to own it. We have to know who it impacts, and we have to address it. And your reaction is everything. It's that simple.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.